I would like to start my talk. Today I would like to firstly introduce some important technical trend in terms of data and AI in order to introduce Web 3.0. And then I also would like to briefly introduce the basic concept of Web 3.0. Actually, there are some slides regarding key elements. I would like to very briefly introduce each item and then more focus on decentralized Web 3.0. So data is very important recently. So instead of just raw data, quite important thing is to make a value. So to do that, AI techniques are also very important. So connected intelligence is really important directions to automated infrastructure. However, there are lots of risky environments. So in this regard, there are some important directions how we support trustworthy ecosystem. So regarding this one, firstly, from the current web technology viewpoint, there were some significant issues regarding walled garden. So mostly some centralized services by big companies such as Google and Facebook, Amazon. So in this regard, to minimize some particular concerns, so there were significant efforts to consider to talk about some next step for web technology. So main direction was decentralization. So there were various kind of similar efforts apart from only web technologies. For example, in the European countries, they wanted to build out their own data ecosystem. So mostly they are targeting data ownership issues, etc. So in this regard, in order to consider this kind of data-centric ecosystems, there were various kind of important technical elements, such as interoperability, cluster, data value, and governance. I believe these kind of efforts are tightly linked to next web technology. Particularly from the data perspectives, there are lots of important considerations. One of our big concerns is to relate some particular aspect regarding user centricity. I believe this one is tightly linked to business aspect. That's the main concerning point of decentralization. So in this regard, recently, there are also lots of available technical solutions, such as a blockchain. So there are some important directions rather than just simply transfer information. So how we consider transaction of various kind of values in a decentralized manner. So that's the one of the key concept of internet of value. So, to do that, rather than just simply considering one particular technical element like blockchain, there were significant concerns or efforts to add on values. That's the kind of important ways to monetize lots of digital assets. In this regard, in the future, there are some important ways to support digital economy with the decentralization. So, to support this kind of directions, AI and data are very important, but in the middle, there are also lots of effort to linking between data and AI with a lot of important ICT infrastructure. Apart from this kind of existing infrastructure, there are lots of considerations for trustworthiness. So that's also one of the important points to discuss today in my talk. So let's think about now Web 3.0. Previously, I just simply emphasized some important technical evolution from the user's perspectives, including some decentralized solutions like blockchains, etc. I believe Web 3.0 is also fully consider these kind of key directions. You know, the Web 3.0 is a kind of the evolution of the internet, mostly user-centric approach. There are lots of different understanding of Web 3.0. Some case from the blockchain community, they are mentioning that it's the service without the service provider. Some case on the internet without Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, etc. But some case we are talking about these are really just a marketing buzzword. It's not a technical terms, but mostly for Web 3.0, we are mainly targeting to make our internet infrastructure and services smarter, secure, transparent, and efficient. Furthermore, it's also very important to support quite interactive solutions between human and machine. So then we can just simply interpret this one as internet of value, as I already indicated. So internet is very important for connectivity, but without values, there is no meaning. So in this regard, ultimately, we could consider to support digital economy with a platform. So mostly for platforms are targeting sharing lots of uh, assets with so many number of participants. But rather than just the offline or just the online manners, there are lots of fusion point of view. Instead of one single space, so multiple spaces, even physical and digital together. In that case, from the traditional platforms as some scale over some just a large number of participants. What important thing is how we efficiently collaborate and provide incentives to individual users. So in this context, Web 3.0 is very significant efforts to support lots of new concepts rather than just the simple traditional service concepts. For example, apart from just the community aspect, we need to think about collaboration, use sovereignty, incentives, as already indicated, from the decision point of view, rather than centralized decision making, democratic decision making, etc. So then these kind of key concepts can be realized with a lots of important technical enablers. As you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, blockchain, various kind of computing technologies. On top of this kind of infrastructures, we also need to think about how we support users' experience with some emerging technologies. So in this regard, in the new technical evolution, mostly we are talking about digitalized solutions in cyberspace. So then digital assets are quite important elements. Then Web 3.0 is really important directions to revolutionize our current internet. But rather than just simply considering this kind of existing technical viewpoint, there are lots of significant impacts to humans and society, even in the industry. So lesson three, we have certain consensus mostly in case of Web 3.0. There are some important elements such as blockchain, crypto, NFT, etc. I believe these kind of elements are very important. Mostly based on this one, we also would like to build up a new space in cyber world, like just the human society, but in the virtual society. In that case, just rather than only considering lots of applications, more importantly, how we support this kind of environments with open protocols like our TCP/IP. So we are very commonly using existing protocols. But on top of this focus, we are building up various kind of vertical applications and services. So then, more importantly, how we newly build out this kind of very effective regulatory framework with softwareized protocols. So in order to realize this kind of key concepts, we need to consider lots of key technical elements. So I would like to briefly introduce the important elements. Firstly, instead of just traditional computing, we need to think about spatial computing. So spatial computing is more importantly considering 3D, so more complex environment, but quite important to provide lots of interactive solutions with the users. So in order to characterize this kind of a key technical point, in order to support spatial web technology, it's not just one single technology. From the information and computing, we also need to think about quite interactive solutions. So then in the bottom, we could think about a new technical solutions from blockchain-centric way. Apart from this kind of decentralized database, we need to think about various kind of challenging solutions from the computing perspectives, such as AI and IoT. And then we can also think about how we really support this kind of key solutions from the user's perspectives with the VR and the AR related technical elements. I believe this one is a really important understanding to comprehensively support Web 3.0 from the blockchain, like data tier as a distribute and the cognitive technologies, and then physical and spatial web, some particular interfaces for supporting AR and VR. So in this regard, Web 3.0 can be also characterized as a spatial, physical, cognitive, and distributed. But similarly, in order to consider this kind of key concepts, recently there were some significant efforts in various kind of groups for standardizations and some forums. For example, instead of hypertext in the current internet, there were some significant efforts to develop new solutions such as hyperspace instead of HTML, HSML, HSTP, etc. I believe these are quite important ways to support completely new technology apart from the conventional internet. So from the beginning, I also emphasized digital assets for digital economy. So then these kind of assets eventually need to be shared. So then more important pieces is how to find, how to access, and how to improve and how to reuse. So in this regard, there are lots of effort to add on various kind of information inside our digital assets. So then eventually this kind of assets need to be created and managed, distribute and retrieve. And then we also need to think about to archive. So there are lots of issues. And then we need to think about this kind of whole life cycle of digital assets. In this regard, if we consider this kind of a new type of digital assets, we also need to think about identity issues. So far, various kind of identities are used, but for new types of assets, we need to consider various kind of new techniques, particularly like here, instead of silo approaches for identities. So recently, there are new initiatives to support decentralized identity, particularly in Web3 see what W3C, they already developed the standard decentralized identifiers. So mostly these kind of items are quite essential to individually support of the users instead of a centralized approach. So this kind of manner, also one of the important thing is a kind of new concepts, but these are tightly related to the ownership issues of individual assets. So NFT can be a significant role for supporting this kind of new directions in digital economy. There are lots of very important properties. So that kind of properties should be well supported by technology. But similarly, in the application viewpoint, instead of conventional apps in the Web 3.0, there are some effort to build up decentralized applications. So these are also targeting individual users to support lots of significant issues, users' privacy, sensitive issues, etc. So then these kind of solutions also are tightly linked with smart contract or various kind of new techniques to linking various kind of business domains as a software manner. So then ultimately this kind of new space in cyber worlds, we need a new policy on governance issues. So in this regard, there are many efforts to support this kind of key technical and the governance issues by technology with various kind of solutions in our platform. So whenever issues like this, there are some particular concerns in terms of governance and ethics. Some case key performance indicators, these kind of things can be supported by some tools like smart contracts, etc., as a surprised manner. I believe these kind of points are quite essential elements, to support the main concept of a Web 3.0. So far, I have concentrated, I have also introduced some important concepts regarding decentralized, I repeatedly mentioned here. So then the real issue is how we successfully support decentralized web technology, eventually to support the real objectives of the future web. So I would like to talk about from the very conventional networking perspectives. We are currently talking about beyond 5G, such as future 6G. Although we are also mainly consider lots of conventional technical features as bandwidth, various kind of interactive solutions, etc. But recently, there were some important directions. For example, conventional networks, we mostly consider only transportation aspect, how we just simply deliver from the source to the destination. However, it's not really a critical issues in the future. Networks will not be just simple networks for end-to-end transport. As I already indicated in the blockchain technology, we are considering transmission of ownerships, etc. So eventually, our future infrastructures need to be distributed, virtual and pilot ICT service factory. So why we are talking about the factory here? So mostly we need to think about various kind of elements on the screen here. For example, network is really for essential part, but apart from networks, computing technology, data technology, lots of key technologies to support trustworthiness in terms of the extension of cybersecurity. But rather than this kind of individual technical elements, recently there are significant efforts to build up a new continuum this is a kind of integrated solutions rather than just the individual technical elements. So then on top of this kind of key solutions, as a continuum, we need to build up quite important workflow, very dynamically support a lot of new services. These kind of services will be eventually realized with a quite essential technical element as shown on the screen here. So then now I would like to talk about what are important components for Web 3.0 infrastructure instead of just a simple consideration of networks. For example, blockchain community, they are mentioning Web3 as a decentralized solution. I believe this one is really important things. However, decentralized solutions is not really the whole infrastructures for Web 3.0. We also need to think about lots of technical elements, particularly for immersiveness, metaverse, that is kind of supporting service environment are also quite important, including digital twin. Apart from this kind of elements, currently AI is a really essential component everywhere for autonomy. Apart from just the AI for infrastructure, so mostly we need to also target how we build up on infrastructure for so many number of AI solutions and applications. So in order to support this kind of a key element, key component for Web 3.0 infrastructure, we need to fundamentally change our considerations to design a new infrastructure. For example, from the user's point of view, there are lots of different roles. There's no particular limited the consumer aspect. So users can be contributors or creators, etc. So lots of personalized user-centric ways need to be supported. From the resources point of view, so we are talking about, we are just centralized some particular concerning point from the data, but these kind of data are basically considering lots of different forms, particularly data assets. So in this regard, we need to consider this kind of resources basically. And then, as I already indicated from the continuum concept, operation is really important. So how we adaptively and evolving manners to continuously support the changed environment. And then optimization and trust issues are also quite important considerations. So in this regard, in the future, so our infrastructure should be considered as a kind of free. It means that so many lots of available resources. So these kind of resources should be well integrated and supported. So then important point is that how we find relevant resources and integrate them and eventually create services in a collaborative manner. And then finally, we can provide incentives to the individual user. So this kind of manner, I believe we need to fully support for the future Web 3.0. But currently, there are lots of different viewpoints. So we do not have a kind of a consolidated understanding of Web 3.0 technologies. Depending on different communities, they have slightly different views and quite limited understanding of with Web 3.0. So in this regard, as a conclusion, I would like to emphasize a kind of holistic thinking. So rather than just considering or targeting some limited or one specific element of a technical point, we need to think about how we best utilize various kind of existing solutions, and then additionally support lots of new techniques, particularly from the spatial web point of view, 3D techniques, artificial intelligence point of view. There are lots of different things to cover. But more importantly, rather than just considering connectivity issues, we need to well consider Internet of values and Internet of intelligence. So that kind of issues are quite significantly important. So then eventually the connected concept should be Internet of everything, but these everythings should be well interpreted. I believe this is really important directions for future for Web 3.0. Thank you. So that's my talk.
Okay, thank you for the nice presentation, Professor Lee. And do you have any questions from the audience? In person or maybe in online? Okay, then I'd like to ask you something about the your presentation here. I actually have seen some of your slide that you'd like to emphasize the role of the artificial intelligence techniques in the realization for the Web 3.0 here. But could you tell me about more details about the role of the artificial intelligence techniques in that kinds of things?
Yes, so I believe currently there are lots of different viewpoints how to utilize AI techniques. So for example, from the network point of view, so far we have concentrated on AI techniques to automate current network infrastructure. So in terms of a control and management point of view, there are lots of solutions to facilitate, automate many control and management issues. However, from the Web 3.0 perspectives, we need to think different approach instead of infrastructure viewpoint. Large server new services and applications with AI. It means that many different solutions for supporting services, then our infrastructure should be significantly changed to support this kind of large available resources. For example, somebody have data, but somebody have AI techniques, some tools, we need to link together and then eventually support relevant services in a collaborative manner. So in order to facilitate this kind of solutions, some agents are necessary. That's the significant role as a infrastructure. That's the service factory issues, as I indicated.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Okay, so this is the end of the first presentation. Thank you again for the Professor Lee.
Thank you.